Hello, friends. Let's discuss the Union Budget 26-27. We'll look at the state of the global economy, how's the Indian economy doing, what have been the sectoral allocations, and before that, we'll look at a different, a varied set of terminology, and of course, we'll look at what all do these things mean actually. What is the meaning of all these numbers? Let's start with something very easy. What is the world economy like today? The world economy is doing great, is one assessment. Another assessment, if you were Donald Trump, is that the world economy is at my mercy. So, what is it? How is it doing? So, let me bring to you certain numbers. This presentation will be data rich. There will be lots of data, and my focus will be less on the numbers for the different sectors, but and more on basically the analysis behind the numbers. Now look at this. The global economy last year grew at 3.3%, and this year too, it's likely to maintain the pace. Initially, it was in the beginning of 2025, it was like the International Monetary Fund, that's the IMF there. The International Monetary Fund said that the numbers will likely get impacted because of Donald Trump's tariff policies. Now, at the time, the fear was that it would be something like 3.1 or so, but the you know the world economy has been pretty resilient despite what Trump had done with China, India, Brazil, and a host of other countries. You look at this 3.3, and of course now also it's 3.3. And of course, if you look at India, the fastest growing major economy in the world, the IMF has said that last year we grew at 7.3%. Please understand there will be a discrepancy between what India's government says and what the IMF goes with. The IMF would go with certain data sets which has its own, which come from its own understanding of the Indian economy. Now, as far as India's growth in the current fiscal, or for that matter, IMF goes with, if you look at the IMF data set, you will see that they go with India's fiscal year, which is April to March. It's likely to be 6.4%. Now, look at China. Now, for all that you care, China's numbers cannot be trusted. 5% is what the Chinese government has said that they grew at. It's unlikely, the organizations like Rhodium, which is one of the world's leading, analyst homes, it says that China would not have grown at beyond 2.5%. Some other day we could discuss that. And of course, the United States, Trump's home, has grown at 2.1%. It's going to do better in this year with 2.4%. Let us see what exactly is happening. Now, why do we need to look at the global economy? Because it is important for us to understand the Indian economy in the light of how the global economy is doing. We are a part of the global economy. We export a lot of stuff. We import a lot of stuff, and all these are, we are vulnerable to what's happening around the world. Now, let's look at I'll just put everything here. Geopolitical tensions are a major thing. You look at Ukraine, Russia, West Asia, with now Iran. Israel plus 10 has cooled down, but Iran's flaring up. So that's one major thing. And of course, you look at China's designs on Taiwan. So that could come to hit us anytime now. Tariff tensions, different countries in the world have put tariffs on each other. If you look at the Americans, they have put tariffs of 50% on India, the world's highest. As far as Trump's tariffs are concerned, the highest tariffs are imposed on India, 50%, 25% of which are for importing oil from Russia. Now, globally, inflation has come down because supply chains, even though they are a little fragmented, they still are okay now, because in COVID, a lot of disruption had happened, but now things are fairly okay. Now, there is, I have mentioned this, there have been fragmented supply chain, but things are still better than what they were, post-COVID. Post-COVID, in the immediate aftermath in 2022-23, things were seriously bad. I mean, entire supply chains had broken down. but now it's fragmented. And of course, there is deflation in the world's biggest manufacturing powerhouse, China. China's what's deflation? Deflation is you could say the opposite of inflation. Inflation is about a rise in price level. Prices go up because of a host of factors, mostly higher demand and lower supply. But in case of deflation, it is that prices fall to such extent that inflation goes below zero. So today China is facing this situation where the Chinese are not spending enough money, my friends. So a lot of Chinese growth, if you see this numbers, 5%, what they claim 4.5% this year, all are export driven growth, because the domestic economy in China is in a pretty bad shape. Now let's go to this particular one, protectionist trade policies. In view of what Trump had been doing, that is imposing tariffs everywhere, a lot of countries are resorting to protectionism. Now, this also got to do with China, because there is not enough demand in China, domestic demand. The Chinese, in order to keep their economic pace at 4.5%, 5%, they are dumping what they're producing abroad. That is, whatever they're producing in China, they're dumping abroad, which effectively means that they are getting money for whatever they are selling, but they are destroying the local economies in Indonesia and Malaysia, India, Vietnam, in Europe. Large parts of Europe are worried about what the Chinese are doing. See, there is a word called dumping. Dumping means an economic tactic where one country sells its products abroad at a lower price than what it would sell in the domestic market. So in China, if this slider would cost 5 rupees, okay, if they sell at 5 rupees this slider in China, in Europe they would sell at 4 rupees. So it does not matter to the Chinese government, because the Chinese government would you may wonder, the Chinese government doesn't sell, the people sell. Yes, the people sell, but the Chinese government subsidizes this. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, a little about the world economy for you. So, it is in the light of what is the state of the world economy. Will we understand today our state of the economy? What has been the growth rate of the Indian economy? Growth rate relates to GDP growth rate. GDP is gross domestic product. We often say gross, it's gross. Gross domestic product. Last financial year we grew at 6.5%. This is the real growth rate, my friends. Real growth rate is after inflation. So there's something called nominal growth rate, which is before inflation, budgeting for inflation. So if you look at the real GDP growth rate here in the current financial year, see, FY26 would mean the financial year that started on 1st of April 2025 and the one that would end on 31st March 2026. During this period, it is 7.4%. Now, the likely it's a inflation today is 2%. That's what the government of India says. So inflation is 2%, which is 7.4% plus 2%, 9.4. 9.4 would be the nominal growth rate. 9.4 is the nominal growth rate. So from the nominal, you have to deduct inflation. You get what is called real growth rate. So you get real growth rate. This is called real growth rate. Okay. So see, this is a pretty bad state. You see this 6.3 inflation last year was about 3.5%, which affected me is 9.5%. Nominal growth has been has been in single digits. Now I'll come to that in a while. This is pretty bad, my friends. Now let's look at sectoral contribution to our GDP. Now there are three primary sectors, three major sectors: primary, secondary, and tertiary. Ter is three. So we have primary sector called agriculture and allied activities. Allied activities would include we have horticulture, floriculture, pisciculture. We have animal husbandry, livestock, dairy, and all. So that contributes about 16%. Now, different sources would give you different numbers here. Some would say 19%, some would say 17%. I'm going with what what the government of India data. Fair, 16%, 29%, and of course, services is our largest sector, contributing 55% of India's total GDP. Okay, now what is India's GDP? $4.12 trillion. 1 trillion equals 1,000 billion. So 4.12 trillion is 4,120 billion. Okay, that sounds weird, no? That sounds huge, basically. But you compare ours, you see, when we say ours is 4,120 billion. Yeah, America's is 30,500 billion. 30,500. You wanted to know Chinese? 19,000, take a round figure, 500 billion. That's huge. This is huge, not India's numbers. Okay. Now, uh, let's go with the sectoral outlook. How are the different sectors performing? But before that, let me caution you. While I mentioned three sectors here: primary, secondary, and tertiary, there are economies. Modern economies say there are two more: quinary and quinary is the fifth one. The fourth one is quaternary. Quinary is all intellectual stuff. Quaternary is to do with high power decision making and executives and all that. So we'll go with the traditional numbers that the government of India gives us. Okay. So sectoral outlook, agriculture has not been doing well. Last year it grew at 4.6%. Think about it, man. For a little over 4%, 4.5%, it has now come down to 3.1%. So the growth rate of the agriculture sector is going down. Now it also means that about 44% of the people, labor force, 44% of the labor force, which is basically 44% of 52 crore. What is 52 crore? Our total labor population. The total labor force in India is about 52 crores, of which 44% is engaged in agriculture. Think about it. Nearly half of the population, labor population, is engaged in agriculture. Yet the sector is not growing good. That's because too many people on too little land, and of course lack of access to credit and lack of access to irrigation. Um, you know, um, uh, Mechanized agriculture. There are plenty of problems that agriculture has, and of course, but this year the focus has been, because farmers haven't had a great few years, the government of India is seized of this matter, and it says that we will boost the farmers' incomes. Of course, it's been there. This kind of rhetoric has been there for a long time. Look, guys, I won't take sides. I'm your teacher. I'm here to analyze the budget. I don't take sides because I don't believe in taking sides. I will be objective, okay? But I'll interpret the numbers for you. Now, when they say they're going to boost the farmers' income, they're going to double it in 5 years. Things haven't materialized. Of course, COVID came in between. But before that, let's look at this. Focus on diversification. Now they say that the government of India is saying that don't grow just rice, wheat, the usual crops. Why don't you venture into high value crops like cashew, cocoa, coconut? Yeah, I mentioned one here, coconut. You can bring in cocoa, you can bring in cashew. Yeah, tobacco is another, of course. And high value allied sectors, get into fisheries, poultry. Poultry is, of course, high intensive, capital intensive as well, but high value allied sector. There's a lot of money in fisheries. Now, India is the top three global fish producer. The largest fish producer is, China. Now, coming to industry, the growth rate has been, better than last year, 6.2%. It's almost similar, actually. 6.2% is what it is likely to grow this year. When I say this year, the coming financial year. Okay. Yeah. Higher focus is on enhancing productivity of what? To become, the reason is to become a global manufacturing hub. You know, um, we would want our MSMEs, micro, small, and medium enterprises, to do better. We have crores of them, and it employs more than they employ more than 8 crore people. So think about it. If they become better, they enhance the production values. Um, you know, they come to globally competitive level. They can produce more better quality stuff and sell in better markets, which will help them earn better money. And of course, services. It's always been growing at a very good pace. Last year it was over 7%. This year is at over 9%. Okay, so you know again, the government of India says that we have had IT, we have had medical stuff and all that, the usual stuff. But why don't we push for medical tourism? So that is a high value sector. Foreigners coming to India, of course, our in their currency, a European, when the European comes to India, they find that our medical costs are pretty minimal compared to what they would have to pay back home. So medical tourism is another, and of course, cloud computing services. We'll come to cloud computing in a while. Okay. So I have a lot of questions here. Maybe I'll take one or two here. Um, okay. There is a problem. Someone said check and okay, fair. Okay. Look at this foreign trade. In light of the global economy, the current conditions and everything. So I have something beyond this for you guys. What has been the growth rate? What has been the foreign trade of India like? Our foreign trade did quite okay. This includes both services and merchandise. Okay, so we grew. See, this is imports and this is exports. So this is for last year, April to last financial year, April to December. This is a current financial year, April to December 25. So this is for 9-month period, and our exports have grown from from 608. Let's take round figure 608 to 634. So things have done. We have done quite well, but our services have done much better than you know our we could say our goods. Yeah. So let's go a little past this, and yes, I have more data for you. I want to take you into more important things. These are okay, small things. So foreign trade rose in the first 9 months of financial year 26, and of course, that is first 9 months is April to December, isn't it? You see this merchandise exports out of 634, our exports was, merchandise goods were 330 billion. So the rest of service, rest were all services. 304 were services, and 330 were merchandise. Merchandise imports also went up. You see this. Think about it. Merchandise imports basically went up to 578 billion. This number, five out of 731, round figure 731. Our imports are like 578 merchandise goods. And what do we import most? Oil. Oil is what we import most. Now we may not need all the oil that we are importing in the current year, but we have something called SPR, strategic petroleum reserves. Okay, strategic petroleum reserves is where we tend to, we have them. These are huge wells, caverns, CAVR and caverns. They are in Vishakhapatnam, Udupi, Mangaluru, all these places, and we store oil for bad times. Basically, what if tomorrow the world closes the tap? What if there is a supply disruption somewhere? We, being the third largest energy consumer in the world, cannot afford to disrupt our economy, just because we do not have energy supply. But mind you, we import 82% of our energy needs. So that's a lot of import. Some terminology, guys, a little terminology for you. And at any point, if you don't understand, basically, please let me know. I have questions also. Why is there a significant drop in GDP? Yes, we will discuss this. Yeah. Uh, 12-month period is what a fiscal year is. It's a 12-month period that we use for submission of what? Accounts, taxation, and financial reporting. In different parts of the world, financial year is calculated differently. In India, we start on the 1st of April and end on the 31st of March of next year. Let me repeat. In India, as you know, we start on the 1st of April and end on 31st of March next year. So we started this current financial year. We are on what? 3rd of February. Today is 3rd of February 2026. So we are in the financial year 25-26. Okay. So, you know, in Iran, they start on March 22nd. It's a Nowruz, basically, March 22nd. America, usually the financial year of the Federal Bank of America, Federal Reserve of America, starts on 1st October. 1st October, while the corporate sector takes the calendar year as a financial year, January to December, which is also the financial year in Japan and China. So the financial year is the same as the calendar year in China, Japan, and in the American corporate sector. Okay. Now, so let's go a little beyond this. I'll explain it. These are simple things, but they will help us understand better, help us answer questions in interviews when we sit across the desk. So what are the different types of accounts? What are the different types of accounts? We have Consolidated Fund of India. What exactly is Consolidated Fund of India? So Consolidated Fund of India is a main account of the government of India. Main account of the government of India. When the government of India gets revenue, wants to spend some money, where does it go? It goes to the CFI, Consolidated Fund of India. It's like, whatever revenue it gets, income tax, GST, whatever revenue, it takes that money, put deposits in the CFI. Now it needs money to be spent for, some scheme, some defense accounts. It wants to spend money on for rural development, for education and all. So it takes money out of this account. So all money is withdrawn from this account. All revenues are deposited in this account. Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, this is the main account of the government of India from which it makes all kinds of withdrawals. Now you may wonder, when does the government take the money? Well, only once does it take permission from the Parliament of India. After the budget is presented, there is the finance minister tables finance bill. It's called the finance bill. The finance bill is a one-time permission to remove money, that is, withdraw money from this account. So the money could be withdrawn over a long period of time, but it's a one-time permission. Okay. So when I say long period of time, it could be removed, it could be withdrawn in December of the financial year. But the permission is taken just after the budget is presented. Okay. So this is the main account. All revenues are deposited here. All monies are withdrawn to meet expenditure. But Parliament's permission is required. Parliament's permission is required. As I mentioned, the permission is taken only once. Now, the second kind of account is the Contingency Fund of India. Contingency means emergency. What is it? Emergency. Contingency means emergency. And ladies and gentlemen, please know that, we have all kinds of emergency. There could be an earthquake, drought, flood, famine. Yeah, it could be anything, a war. So in not exactly war, let's put it natural stuff. Okay, restricted to natural stuff. To that extent, the Contingency Fund of India has some money which could be withdrawn with the government without. Even the Parliament is not in session, it can withdraw this money and meet that expense for that calamity. Let's say the Parliament is not in session. So can it take the money? Can it withdraw the money from here? Yes. Why? Because calamity won't wait for the permission of the Parliament, isn't it? It has to be, people have to be rehabilitated, taken care of, funds have to be released to meet the emergency, what comes after the emergency and all. So what happens here is, after the, once the Parliament reconvenes, that is, withdrawal is made from this, money is spent on to meet the emergency, and then Parliament meets after a month or whatever time. At that time, the government takes permission. It says, hey, we withdrew money from this account and we now want you to endorse that. That is, say yes to that. Essentially, it's an emergency. No one says no. Okay. So in this, permission is taken before any kind of withdrawal. Here it is after. Usually after. It's what is called post facto. Post facto. So usually how much money is there? As of today, 8,800 crores is there. 8,800 crore rupees is there. Yes, that's it. Okay. The last one, public accounts. Public accounts are not owned by the government. See, these first two accounts are owned by the government of India. This account is not owned by the government of India. It's like your EPF, Employees Provident Fund. You have postal savings. Yeah. You have all kinds of savings with the postal department. You have all kinds of savings with the public provident fund kind of thing. Now, these monies are monies, MONIES. That's in economics. We use this word in economics. These monies are used by the government of India. But how can the government of India take this? Because these accounts are managed by government of India. And these are kept in what is called public trust. These are in public trust, or simply put in government trust. They are put in government's trust, nothing more than that. Simple. Okay. Now you understand why do they pay you interest when Papa puts money in these accounts? Mama goes to postal savings, post office, and puts some money in the savings account there. Why? Because the government is using your paisa. That's the reason. The government is using your paisa. That's why they pay you interest. Okay. They also lend. Basically, the money does not go into the post office or the employees provident. There's a corpus. Okay. So the government uses that money. I hope you are clear about this. Is there any questions here? Yeah. Right now, there are no questions. Fair. I don't see questions here. So let's look at this. Defining a few more things here. Yeah. The budget has two parts. Part A is the economic survey. Part 2 is the budget speech. What is the economic survey? The economic survey is an assessment of the Indian economy in the current financial year. So here you see the economic survey, the one that was presented now, okay, 3 days before the budget was presented, is basically an assessment of the Indian economy's performance in the current financial year. Okay, how is it doing? So sometimes they take the numbers till December, like we saw those foreign trade numbers. Sometimes they take the numbers till Feb, yeah, or Jan end, till Jan end. Now, what's the budget? This is what it is. The budget is a statement of revenues and expenditure. So in the coming financial year, we are going to have a lot of expenditures. But to meet those expenditures, we would accrue certain revenue. We would earn some money through taxes and other stuff. So this budget is basically, what we say is a statement of expected revenues and probable expenditures. That's it, nothing else. And the financial year starts on 1st April, ends on 31st March. That's about it. Nothing extraordinary about this. Like, friends, it's simple, my friends. Life is about managing probabilities. This could happen, that could happen. So when you wear a helmet, it's a probability. You are meeting, you're trying to prepare yourself for the probability of meeting with an accident, being in an accident. So life is about managing probabilities. A budget is about managing probabilities like expenses, what kinds of expenses and all that. So there are some terms, I will not spend any time here. They are self-explanatory. I put them in such a way that anyone can understand this. Yeah. When I say anyone, just about anyone, including a guy like me. Okay. So revenue receipts. Often you read this in the budget document, any kind of budget statement, that the government of India's revenue receipts are like this. So the revenue receipts are of two kinds: tax revenues, non-tax revenues. Tax receipts tax revenues would include income tax, GST, excise duty and all that. Now, excise duty, you see, is there on alcohol, isn't it? Yeah, it's still there. Non-tax revenues like dividends and stamp duties. Stamp duty is usually on real estate transactions. And coming to, dividend. Dividend is the return on shares. Return on shares. That is when you invest in shares. Yeah. A company, you become a co-owner of a company. When you invest in shares, you buy 10 shares of Reliance Industries, you become a part owner of the company. Now, when the company makes a profit, it shares some amount with the shareholders. That amount that is shared is called dividend. Okay. So the government of India also gets dividends. This year, it's likely to receive something like 78,000, take 80,000 crore as dividends. Yes, yes, that's its expectation. Okay, 80,000 crore in dividends from a lot of public sector units, like, a lot of public sector enterprises, like you have um, Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited, ONGC, BSNL, all kinds of companies. So what is revenue expenditure? This is to meet your salaries, pensions, and all that stuff. So revenue expense, revenue receipts on everyday stuff, revenue expenditure, everyday stuff, routine stuff, absolute routine stuff. Capital receipts. Now these are basically, you lend money. The government of India lends money to Bhutan. It gets that money back. That would be covered under recoveries of loans. Okay, recoveries of loans. Sometimes not now. Of course, this was a Jamani, when, some 30, 40 years back, we would get some money from, say, some country like Japan. They would say, take this money at an extremely low rate of interest or no interest. Take this money, forget about it. So, gratis. Got it? And disinvestment. What is disinvestment? See, disinvestments is basically selling of government shareholding in public sector company. Okay. See, there are two ways a government can sell shares in public sector companies. One, disinvestment. In investment, you put money and buy shares. In disinvestment, you sell shares to recover money, to get money. Okay. So the government of India owns a lot of companies, about 248 companies, a little over that. So the government of India says, okay, we don't want to have shares in this company. Let's sell 5% of this company. So they sell 5% shares, they get some money. That money that they get is called disinvestment. It's called disinvestment. This year's target is when I read this, my first reaction was laugh. Okay, because in the last few years they haven't realized even half of what they had set out. Sometimes they set out 40,000 crore, they could not realize. 75,000 crore, they did not realize 26 also. Now think about it, 80,000 crore. They say that we will sell 1-2 banks to the public. We'll privatize. Okay, let me bring in. Disinvestment is where shares are sold by the government without transfer of management control. That is, the company remains a government company. Okay, but in privatization, the government sells shares along with transferring management to a private buyer. You understand that? Okay. So in disinvestment, so you take out investment. In disinvestment, only shares are sold. In privatization, along with shares, management control is passed on, like Air India. That's a good example. Okay. Now let's look at capital expenditure. See, remember this. This is non-debt recovery. This is for these money, you don't have to borrow. They are coming. This money is coming, isn't it? Capital receipts is where money is coming in. You don't have to borrow money, basically. Now here, capital expenditure. This is the money that is spent on building roads, asset creation, roads, airports, hospitals. The government of India has built lots of AIMS hospitals across India. They have built bridges, large bridges, power plants, nuclear power plants. All these, they come under capital expenditure. They have long-term, use, basically, long-term use. So that's a bit about. Now let's go directly to the budget. Now, having a look at what is the reason for disinvestment, I think, yeah, I can't read this question because I can't read because there is a symbol where I have to like it, basically. So the government of India is not likely. See, the economic conditions are pretty poor. Okay, they are very, very poor, absolutely poor. I'll tell you something why they are poor. Okay, I'll just give you some numbers. Okay, we will do one thing. I'll come to the numbers in a while. I'll take that up. Okay, my friends. Yeah, I'll take that question up on disinvestment. So what is a budget like? What is a budget document? See, I go through the entire thing. Every year I go through the entire budget. Yesterday I was traveling. Otherwise, we could have had this session yesterday itself. So This is the single most important document you need to know, about the budget. Where is the paisa coming from? Where is the paisa going? Everything is here. Okay. How much is a shortfall? It's mentioned here. So what does it? It's called budget at a glance. It's called budget at a glance. It contains 4 columns. You see this? There are 4 columns here. Actuals for 24-25. This is the budget for the coming financial year. Okay. But this is 24-25 actuals. Last year, when Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman presented the budget, she said, this is how we are going to get revenue. This much revenue we'll get. This is how we are going to spend money and all that. See this. She said that we will generate a revenue of 34,20,409. It's way too small from where you are, my friends, but I'll put the number here. This is in rupees crore. Okay. So the total estimated revenue last year, this current financial year, was 34,20,209 crore rupees. Okay. But what happens is, as the financial year progresses, global economic conditions might change. Local economic conditions might change. Economy might do well. Economy might not do well. If the economy does well, the revenue might go up. Okay. If the economy doesn't do well, its tax revenues might go down. So look at the numbers. So they had budgeted that, okay, finance minister said that we are targeting 34,20,209 crore. But what did they, now they have put what is called revised estimates. These are revised, numbers are revised all the time. 33,42,323. So now she says, we are not likely to get this amount, but we are likely to get this amount. The shortfall is about 80,000 crores. Yeah, take a round figure. 80,000. 78,000 crore is a shortfall. That's a lot of shortfall, isn't it? If the economy is doing that great, why did the revenue slip? Yeah, that's one. I'll come to that. Now look at this. The second one, you see this total disinvestment. You see here, there will be something called other receipts and everything. Yeah, other receipts. In other receipts, this includes disinvestment. Okay. For want of space, I am writing in short. Look at this. What was the target? 47,000 crore. 47,000 crore was the target. How much did they achieve? 33,837. See, they are not been the shortfall of almost 14,000 crore rupees. So things are not good, my friends. Things actually are not good. Yeah. And now they are putting a target of 80,000 crore. I don't know where the money will come from. Who is going to buy what are they going to sell and all that. Let us see. Now, how do you, if there is just one figure in this entire, graphic, you should be comfortable with, it is this. Okay. This number, total expenditure. You see this here, total expenditure. This tells you the size of the budget. This number tells you the size of the budget. So this, for the coming financial year, our total expenditure will be 53 lakhs. I'll write it here. 53 lakhs 47,315 crore. So that is the total amount of expenditure we'll have in the coming financial year. 53 lakhs 47,315 crore. Okay. Got it. It's a huge amount, no? Yeah. But now let's go back. Budget estimates last year. What was the amount? 50 lakh 60. I'll put round figures. 50 lakh 65,000 crore. Okay. But how much is actual thing? 4964. Means they said, the government of India said that we are going to spend 50 lakh 65,000 crore, but they spent 49 lakh 64,000 crore. So they actually spent less. They spent less. 1 lakh crore rupees less. See, this is how the government of India has done things. I'll come to this in a while. Again, there is a lot to discuss. I want you to understand things that newspaper columnists because I don't read newspapers. Newspaper column is TV channel, journalists, all this tarika, all broadcasting. They won't tell you these numbers. So there's a lot that is happening. So all kinds of articles are published, all kinds of things are told on TV, on podcasts and all, that the economy is doing great. We are the fastest growing large economy. Yes, we are. But let's look at, are we punching way below way below our weight, my friends? Yeah, you understand that? So yeah, we are actually not doing great. We could do much better. There's a lot of distress in certain parts of the economy. We'll come to this. So remember this is a fabulous piece. If I my first thing the first thing I look at is when I get the budget document online, that is the indiabudget.nic or .gov.in. This is the document. It's called Budget at a Glance. Budget comprises so and so. Okay, now let me take you to this. So you saw that in this, let me clear all of these things. So I'll focus on one particular number. I want to erase all the ink here. And you see, there is total expenditure, there is total, revenue, total receipts. Total expenditure is 10 plus 3. What is 10? Total, forget about it. This total. Government of India gets a lot of revenue, total. So 10, total expenditure is this, total receipts. 1 plus 4. What is 1? Revenue receipts. 4, capital receipts. This plus this will be total receipts, yes. But you see, there is a difference. You see this 35 lakhs 33,150 and this is 18 lakh 14,165. So there is a difference. There is a difference. Now, thing is, we are borrowing a lot of money because there is a shortfall. There is a shortfall. There is a lot of shortfall. How do you calculate? This shortfall is how we, is called in simple bhasha fiscal deficit. It is not the definition. Normal bhasha, fiscal deficit. I have little money. Okay, I need a lot of money. Now, to bridge the gap, I'll borrow from you. That borrowing would be called fiscal deficit. Okay. Now, let me take you to a very simple definition of this. So, what is the fiscal deficit? This is the dangerous thing. Very, very dangerous thing. And this is what the government of India is tom-tomming, that look, we have stuck to 4.4% of the fiscal deficit target. We said 4.4%, we stuck to 4.4. What is this number? I'll come to this. See, fiscal deficit in rupees crore. Total revenue receipts, recoveries of loans, because fiscal deficit, how do you calculate fiscal deficit? 16. In the previous graphic, total expenditure is number 16. From that, you have to deduct 3 things. 1 plus 5 plus 6. What is 1? Revenue receipts. We saw that. 5. Recoveries of loans. Money that is lent has come back to us. Our money. Capital receipt. Other receipts. That would include our grants and other stuff. So you add these 3. You see this. Total expenditure is, okay, let's come to the current financial year. The total expenditure is this year expected to be 50,65,345. Yes. From this total expenditure, we have to deduct this. If we deduct this, we would get this number. This is the shortfall. This is the shortfall. Got it, my friends? Means 15,68,000 crore is a shortfall, that we would have to borrow. We are not earning enough to pay for our own expenses. To say that we are living beyond our means would definitely be a super understatement, isn't it? So 15.68 lakh crore is a total borrowing. This is what the finance minister last year had said at the time of budget presentation. Then she said, no, revenue is going to go down to this number, 49,64,000. So 1 lakh crore series. Now the fiscal deficit also will decrease. How much are we going to borrow this year? The total expenditure is this much this year, in the coming financial year. The receipts will be, 17 lakh crore less. So this financial year, that is the coming financial. When I say this, my friends, always, the coming financial year, we are going to borrow 17 lakh crore rupees. Where will the borrowing come from? You must be wondering. Any question? Yeah, would you want to answer this? How many of you would say would know this? Um, where does the government of India borrow from? Okay, I'll come to you, Harshit. IMF. Okay, IMF. Card Gamers. Nice nickname. Bhavya. IMF. Who else would want to guess? Where does the government of India gets its money from? Where does it? NDB. That is a national new develop. The New Development Bank of BRICS Bank. Government securities, bonds. Okay, it's a combination of all of this, but most of the money comes from you know public accounts, bonds. Government of India sells bonds, like one of you had mentioned. Government of India sells bonds. It says, okay, hey Puneet, you want to buy this? You pay me one. Let's say you pay me 100 rupees. You pay me 100 rupees. I'll give you this paper. This paper is worth 100 rupees. It's a bond basically. Okay, it has a maturity of 5 years. 5 years later, it will mature. Interest rate is 5%. So 5 years. Later I'll pay back your principal. Every year I'll give you an interest of 5%. So that's how the government of India issues bonds and all that. Yes, essentially we are the biggest funders of the government of India. Like one of you had mentioned, Indians give the money. Government, we borrow barely about $2 billion from IMF. Peanuts. So what is this number in brackets? 4.4, 4.3. This is the total. You see this? It says 4.4% of India's GDP. India's GDP is likely to be, see, GDP for coming financial year 26-27. Coming financial year is 26-27 is 20, is 393 lakh crores. 393 lakh crores, my friends. So of this money, any of this money or this money also, this money is 4.3% of this. 4.3% of this. So we need a benchmark. To have a benchmark is a good thing. That's why we take the GDP as a benchmark. So while we may be producing this much, the total value of all goods and services that India would produce in the coming financial year is 393 lakh crore rupees. That's a good number. But that won't come, of course. Of this, nearly 17 crore will be a revenue shortfall for the government of India, which it will borrow. Yeah, man, is it a good thing? My next thing about this talk is, what would happen if we would I have all of these things. See, this particular session is primarily, after this allocations, everything will come. But importantly, I want you to know these things, because when the budget is presented, no one tells you these numbers. No one actually helps you understand these things, helps you understand the consequences. We need to know the consequences. When we would sit for the interview, they would ask us, so what's fiscal deficit? Fiscal deficit is simply the, borrowing, basically. Yeah, government of India does to bridge the gap between revenues and expenditures, and anything that does not lead to debt. We'll come to that. So the last year 4.4, financial year, it is 4.4%. I mean, the target was 4.4%. So it is, I think, see, actually it is 4.8. This should be 4.4. I think there must be 4.6. Sorry, guys. Budget estimate 4.4. Revised estimate, they stuck to that number. That's a miracle. It is a rare thing that the government of India would stick to some number, especially when it says, let's save money, let's spend less. Is it a good thing? We'll come to that. How did the central government manage to stay within the borrowing limit? So how much did they borrow? Nearly 16 lakh crore rupees last year. So is it a good thing? This year's, that is the coming financial year's target is 4.3%. They're going to borrow a lot of paisa. Why a high fiscal deficit is a cause for worry? It's a major cause for worry. Major cause for worry. So why is it a major cause for worry? I'll just a second. Give me. Yes. It's a major cause for worry. So what happens when the government runs a high fiscal deficit? When the government runs a high fiscal deficit, effectively means it's going to borrow a lot of money. Yes. So when it borrows, it is higher government borrowing. So I put a smiley there. Yeah. Higher government borrowing would mean higher interest rates. Why? Because when the banks lend to the government, when the money supply in the market goes down, how much will the money supply go down by? 17 lakh crore rupees. When the market money supply goes down by 17 lakh crore, this is a round figure we just took. Obviously, the money supply will decrease. When the money supply decreases, the interest rates increase. You want a loan, someone else wants a loan, I want a loan, but there is no money. So when there is no money, what happens? When, banks fight among themselves or consumers fight among themselves. Consumers fight among themselves. For whatever little money is available, they are willing to pay a higher rate of interest to get that loan, to get that money. So interest rates go up. When money supply goes down because of government borrowing, interest rates go up. When interest rates go up, loans become expensive. When loans become expensive, obviously, if you are a producer of goods and services, what would you do? Would you borrow money? You would say, hey, Bharat, my name is Bharat Sijain. Hey, Bharat, it's very expensive, man. I don't want to borrow money from you. No, I'm a bank manager. And you say, no, I don't want to borrow. So what would you do? I ask. You say that I'll postpone my investment plans. So you postpone plans. You don't invest in plant and machinery. You don't buy a bike. You don't buy, the TV. You don't buy a house. Basically, loans have become expensive. Your money would go up. So you postpone expenditure. When you postpone expenditure, the demand for goods and services decreases, which decreases, economic activity. When economic activity goes down, everything goes bad. Employment also goes down. Employment goes down, my friends. It's a very bad thing. Yeah. So this, I mentioned here, lowers employment generation and aggregate demand. Things are pretty bad in India because of this. Sometimes loans are expensive, depending on what kind of loan you're borrowing, what you're making. So, but this is what happens when government borrows a lot of money. Okay. So money supply goes down. Consequently, loans become expensive because of higher interest rates. When loans become expensive, people borrow less. As people borrow less, spend less, consumer demand goes down. Consequently, you as a producer would not produce. And since you want to contain costs, you fire people. You don't employ people. As people don't have jobs, they don't have incomes. When they don't have incomes, they don't have purchasing power. When they don't have purchasing power, the demand for goods and services decreases. It's a vicious cycle, my friends. Okay. So allocations for different sectors. It's all in rupees crore, my friends. Now I'll bring to you some important things after this. See this. Transport includes railways and roadways. The numbers are pretty large. 5.98 lakh crore rupees. See this. 5.98 lakh crore rupees, my friends. That's a huge number, my friends. Okay. So defense, of course, again, the number has gone up considerably, about 15%, because, of the two border threat that we face from China and Pakistan. In light of the shortcomings, we did a great job during Operation Sindoor, but we still can do better if tomorrow, we need to be prepared for tomorrow, because if there is a two-front war, we need to have a lot of equipment, military equipment, and other things. So this money, nearly 5.95 lakh crore rupees, has been allocated to defense sector, but there has been a hike of 22% in capital expenditure. CapEx, it's called capital expenditure. So this money will go towards modernization of our armored forces. Not just that, it will also be about buying new, military aircraft. We would buy military aircraft, arms, ammunition, tanks, and all that stuff. Okay, so capex is about buying equipment basically to strengthen our military preparedness. So these are things, my friends. I would want you to be little more familiar with this. Now, I'll come back to this. You just remember these numbers, and I know it's very difficult to remember these numbers. You can take a photo. I'll come back to this. Now, you see this. How did the government of India manage to stay within, its expenses limit? They said that, look, we plan to spend 50 lakh crore rupees, but we spend only 49 lakh crore rupees. That's why we could, we control our expenditure. But did they really control their expenditure? Yes. How? I'll tell you. See, defense, they wanted to spend 4.91. 4.91. They ended up spending 5.67 lakh crore rupees. These are all lakh crore rupees. Okay. Now, not lakh crore rupees. This is lakh crore rupees. 4.91 lakh crore rupees, 5.67 lakh crore rupees. Because of Operation Sindhu, the expenses and all that stuff. Okay, it's understandable. But look at the other things now. I'll come to subsidies. I have a different slide for subsidies. Okay, now look at this. Urban, there is something called urban development here. Urban development. We say our cities are in a pretty bad shape. We need to take care of pollution levels, sanitation, sewage, roads, and all that. They had planned to spend 97,000 crore rupees. 97,000 crore rupees budgeted last year. How much did they spend? 57,000 crore rupees. So a shortfall of 40,000 crore. Means the Urban Development Ministry had 97,000 crore budget, but they spent only 57,000 crore. Okay. Now let's see a little more. Let's look at a little more. Tax administration, no, not important for you guys. Look at this. Scientific departments, 55,000 crore rupees. Yeah, 55,000 crore rupees. I'm taking around figure. This is 37,000 crore rupees. Yeah, spent, allocated. Look at one more. I want you to know there is something very interesting here. Yes, IT and telecom. IT and telecom. How much? 87,000 crore. How much did they spend? Just 54,000 crore. Yeah. And the most interesting thing is here, this number basically. Rural development. 2.65 lakh crore. Okay. Lakh crore. But they spent only about, 2.12 lakh. So what it tells you is that they controlled expenditures and underspent less than what they should have. But then there is a line of argument. They say, hey, we have to undercut here because our subsidy bill and our defense bill went up. Our subsidy bill, what is subsidy? Where basically it's a discount. Simple bhasha, a discount. Under recovery. Subsidies under recovery. If something costs, let's say this pen costs 5 rupees. I'm the government. And I tell you, okay, you take it for 4 rupees. 1 rupee is a subsidy. Normally, ordinary bhasha, 1 rupee is a discount. The government calls it subsidy. Okay. Now, on these accounts, fertilizer, food, and fuel, the subsidy went up. Subsidy went up, my friends. Everywhere they went up. Fertilizer subsidy went up by about 18,000 crore. This went up by food subsidy went up by 25,000 crore. Petroleum gas subsidy went up by 3,000 crore. So you can see that yes, there have been expenses. They have gone way, but I still believe that they have underspent, and this is impacting people. Rural development, if your budget is 2.65 lakh crore, you spend only 2.12, 50,000 crore could have made a huge difference to thousands of lives. But importantly, you may say, hey, borrowing will increase. Yes, I understand that. Oh, why is this coming first? Oh, I think animation mistake. Never mind. See this. These are the same numbers that I had. I made this slide in the end. That's why I didn't remember that I had this slide. See the numbers. Yes, this is what they had budgeted. This is what they eventually spent. Yeah, look at it. Everyone is tom-toeing about capital expenditure. Everyone is tom-toeing about capital expenditure. See this, how much? 11 lakhs 21,000 last year they said. 11 lakh 21,000. How much did they spend? 10 lakh 95,000. So here also there is a shortfall of 26,000 crores. They didn't spend all the money they allocated for, building roads and all that. Now, what is a good sign that the economy is not doing well? It's a bad sign, of course. Income tax. How much did the budget? 14 lakhs 38,000 crore. But the actual collection is 13 lakh 12,000 crore. See this. This is a shortfall of 1.26 lakh crore. Hey guys, please correct me. My math is very poor. Okay. My math is really, really poor. BBC broke. I would not want to read the entire username. Exact combinations of sectors is like transport includes roads, railways, highways, aviation and waterways. Aviation and waterways. All transport. 4. Waterways, airways, roads and railways. Okay. Yes. I think one of you had the same guy had asked, Ministry of Defense got almost 8 lakh crore rupees. What are the sectors they take care of? The same things that, one of you guys mentioned, they take care of Air Force, Navy and all that. Okay. I'll come to interest in a while. Okay. Look at this. You have income tax collection going down. You see this GST collection. Every month you read, oh, GST collections break all records and all that. Look at this. 11 lakh 78,000 crore was a budgeted number, but the actual number they believe they would collect is 10.46. That's what 1.32 lakh crore rupees. That's a huge shortfall. Just on 2 accounts, the number is 2.58, my friends. 2.5 lakh crore shortfall in just 2 taxes, income tax and GST. Huge money spinners for the government, but unfortunately, not doing great. Okay. So where is the money coming from? Where is the money coming from? Okay, just one thing before we discuss this. See, the government of India, GDP, it says that GDP growth is 7.4%. 7.4%. But the revenue growth is going to be about 6 point. So revenue growth is 6.7%. This is GDP growth. Okay. So you see this. Our revenue growth is less than the GDP growth rate. Don't you think it's a matter of concern? It is a matter of concern because if even in an economy that is doing well, we are not able to collect well. Our taxation system is flawed. Okay. Now, one more thing is that inflation. So many people say inflation, low inflation is a good thing. So what is the inflation today? Normal GDP is 7.4. This is real GDP. Okay. Nominally is likely to be 9.4. Why? Inflation is 2%. Inflation is 2%. Okay. So my friends, is inflation 2% of 2% good one? No. A few years back, a top MBA college in India had an essay topic that went like, a moderate rate of inflation is good for a developing country like India. In fact, it is good. But what's a moderate rate of inflation? The RBI's target for inflation is about 4%. 4% RBI target plus or minus 2%. This is RBI target. Remember, my friends, RBI's target for inflation is 4% plus or minus 2%. So, what is the current inflation? Just 2%. Is it a good thing? No, not at all a good thing. It means that consumers are not spending money. That is why inflation is low. Consumers, you and I, are not spending money. There is a certain slack, SLACK, slack in consumer spending. If consumers are not spending, why would a producer produce? Why will when the producer does not produce, there is no employment generation. If there is no employment generation, what about what about the guy who does not have a job, no income? Again, we discuss the vicious cycle. Same thing happens. And if you are a producer of finished goods, what about the raw materials that you would want to buy? Because there is no production, there is no supply of raw materials. The guy who you produce a raw material would not have employment, would not give employment to people because there is no demand for his product. So it's a bad thing, my friends. Up to 4% is a good number. 4 to 5% is a good number for India. But then things are pretty bad everywhere. Okay. I just wanted to tell you this because, there is a lot of stress in the economy. If you discuss with folks at home, you will understand this. Okay. That's why in this budget, the government of India focused a lot. You see, there was no big bang announcements. There were no big bang announcements. Like in the past, last year, they talked about a major income tax cut. Yeah. And in between, they talked about major GST cut. If things were so good, why did they do that? You understand that? Yeah. See, I am a hardcore believer in good economics, but we have to be very careful about interpreting numbers. Okay, guys? Now, there is a lot of distress. That's why this year they focused a lot on MSME sectors. MSME sector. What is MSME? Micro, small, and medium enterprises. I have 2 exclusive slides, maybe 1 or 2 exclusive on that. I'll come to this. But I think we should clear this first. So where does the rupee come from? The rupee comes from here, my friends. All of the rupee comes from this. I'm just reading questions. In the meanwhile, you have a look at this. Where does the entire money come from? Out of the total money that we get, my friends, 24 paisa, that is, I write in big letters, 24 paisa, 24%. For every 1 rupee, 24 paisa comes from borrowing. Hey, that's what we discussed, isn't it? So we are not earning enough. Look at that, income tax, 21%. I remember, it used to be about 9%, 8 to 9%. Now it is 21%. After borrowing, the single biggest source of my paisa for the government of India. For the government of India. Okay. So, look at this. Customs duties on exports and imports. What is this? What else is there? I think that should be fine. This is where the paisa comes from. Corporation tax is the tax on company incomes. We have income tax. Individuals have income tax. Companies have corporation tax. Corporation is not municipal corporation. Corporation is corporation. Okay, companies basically. So where does this rupee go from? From rupee comes from here. Where does the rupee go? The rupee goes here. Okay, a lot of the paisa goes towards interest payments. Interest payments, my friends. So see this, 20 paisa. 20 paisa. 20 paisa goes towards interest payments. So 1/5 of the paisa that we earn is gone towards interest payments, my friends. Interest payments. 11% is going towards defense. One more thing I want to, central, there are 2 terms here. Central sector scheme, centrally sponsored scheme. Central sector scheme is where central government owns the scheme, funds it entirely. Centrally sponsored, part of it is funded between the center and the part by the state. Okay. 6 paisa, 6% of the total expenditure goes towards subsidies. So what are the different kinds of subsidies? Yeah. See, subsidies essentially are discounts. The government of India gives a lot of discounts to, in different ways. You travel by railway, there is a discount. Like for example, if you buy a railway ticket, when you buy a railway ticket and the bottom or on the back of it, it's clearly mentioned on an average 53% of the fare is 47% of the fare is subsidized. 47%. So if the ticket costs 100 rupees, you paid only 53 rupees technically. Okay, so it would have been worth more than 100 rupees, but the government collected only 53% of the 53, 53% or 57% of the total expense, total journey pay. Now, in fact, you go to a top college in India, you go to the IIT, you go to the I.I.M., you go to some university colleges, money, everything, most of the stuff is subsidized. You go to a college, you go for IIT education, education is subsidized. Even in IIT Bombay, it's subsidized. Everywhere it's subsidized. Okay. So, see, an MBA at a college called FMS, Faculty of Management Studies, that, that would be like worth per annum, it would cost 2 lakh rupees. You understand? Just 2 lakh rupees. Because the rest of the money is subsidized by the government of India. The university takes care of the expenses. So everywhere there's subsidy. Look at fertilizer. So the government of India gives urea, DAP, diammonium phosphate, and everything, phosphate and air. The budgeted this year was 1,67,887. We import a lot of this urea and all that stuff. So as the rupee had devalued, rupee has gone down, depreciated, we had to spend more money. That's also the reason. It's not that we spent more on fertilizer, we gave it to more farmers, or we gave little more quantity to farmers. No, no, no. It could be because of the depreciation of the rupee value. So this is one. Now, food subsidy, yes, we spent a lot more money on food subsidy than the budgeted one. Look at this, 2,03,420 crores is what was budgeted, but we spent an extra 25,000 crore because the government of India gave a lot. Even today, it gives food grains free of cost. Free of cost. Yeah, it started with the COVID and it has remained that way. So you have the government of India giving gas cylinders and everything. Gas cylinders subsidy is 12,100 crore. It's again, it's a huge number, my friends. Yeah. These are all, see, I'm not a great fan of these kinds of things. These are all somehow, these are all glitch. The substance is something else. We discuss substance, you see, we discuss numbers. So these are all rhetoric. These things look very good. Look, Viksit Bharat, balancing ambition with inclusion. Yes, it should. That's how a society should work. Inclusion. But look at this. Action over ambivalence. Yes, no dithering. It's a good idea. No dithering. No, not being in two minds. Let's do things. Let's do things. Reform over rhetoric without saying as much, without speaking much. Go on doing things like the GST. Reforms. Yeah, like the what is it? 2019, the corporate tax cuts. These are all good things to do. Yeah, the Modi government had done a lot of remarkable work in this case. But unfortunately, there are a lot of, they could have done a lot more. Yeah, they could have done a seriously lot more. Like agriculture subsidies, they give so much agriculture subsidy. Why not use some of that on research so that we study better quality? We spend more money on research institutes that study soil patterns, that study climate change and advise farmers accordingly. So our farmers would get more. See, there is a politician in a politician. You understand that? So at the time of elections, the politician comes out, statesman sleeps. So in this case also, that's the same thing. Indians also need immediate gratification, instant gratification. Tomorrow is another day. That's what they say. Okay, so it's a good idea. Look at this, stability. Yes, political stability, economic stability, fiscal discipline. We discuss how finances could be controlled and everything. Yeah, we need to spend less. So that we can borrow. We need to, we would need to borrow less. Sustain growth, moderate inflation. This is what the Modi government is doing. It's doing all the things. Yeah, but still things are not working well. So, high growth rate of around 7%. Is this enough? I told you it's not enough. It is not enough, my friends. It is absolutely not enough to have just 7% growth rate. Yeah. Sir, wouldn't it be seen as too pessimistic in the interview if we talk about budget in such a manner? No, not really. We need to be realistic. I'm not saying, I did not say, see, I too spoke very positively now. Didn't I speak positively about the current Modi government? Yes. I'm not a political guy. I am telling you, you should look at the budget in a different way, in a way, that shows your mental maturity. You understand that? And I did not at any point bring in political rhetoric. I don't believe in such things. Okay. I'm your teacher. Um, yes. Some of you are asking questions, and some of your friends online are answering them, which is a wonderful thing. Okay. So is this 7% good? I told you it's not really a good idea to have just 7%. Anything that is less than 2-digit nominal growth, we need to have. Pre-COVID, we used to have about anywhere between 10 to 13%. Okay, nominal growth. From that you deducted inflation, you still could log around 8 to 10%. Yeah, 8 to 9%, which is good. But coming to 6 to 7.5% is not going to help. See, high growth rate of around 7%, we may say as the base increases, growth rate goes down. Yeah, I understand, but the base is still not very large. Okay, it's only a little over $4 trillion. Okay, see this. First kartavya, second kartavya, third kartavya. My friends, ladies and gentlemen, you would need to know these things. I'm not going to spend time on these things. I'm going to talk about certain sectors and all. What do the measures mean? Please understand that the government goes with a certain idea. So they have certain terminology they use everywhere, like kartavya marg, kartavya path. Okay, yeah, hamar kartavya hai. These are our duty to the people of India. That kind of rhetoric. So we'll not get there. But if you are comfortable learning these things, yes, you can basically. Yeah. So what are these things? These are all taken from the budget document, highlights of the budget. These are not my document. Okay. Now, to take it further, my friends, standard measures. This is something I thoroughly enjoy writing. Okay, this particular slide. So I'll tell you how politics works. Defense. We discuss this. Outlay little over 15% hike over uh, financial year 26. So this year, whatever the hike, whatever the number is, over that 15% hike for this. Okay. I already mentioned why we need this kind of hike. We need to spend more and more. And of course, while we have been trying to look at indigenization, Atmanirbhar Bharat, we are producing a lot of stuff within the country, which is a wonderful thing. We need to be self-reliant. But, it also is important that we collaborate. We buy those things that we today don't have, but need. We shouldn't be insular, negative. Okay, we should be looking at national interest in this case. So let's buy things that we don't have. Let's collaborate where we can collaborate for transfer of technology and everything. Okay, now this is artificial intelligence, cloud, and nuclear technology. The finance minister spent considerable amount of time on this. I'll tell you how this works. Okay, if you are an American company, a cloud computing services company, or a European company that provides cloud computing services, okay, you come to India, you set up a cloud computing service in India. You not only sell to Indian cloud consumers, but also abroad. Yeah, you will get a tax holiday. A tax holiday means no tax, no tax till 2047. Hey, that's it. It's a wonderful thing. No tax till 2047. That is, you wouldn't need to spend any paisa. If you're a foreign, cloud service provider, you wouldn't need to spend any paisa in paying tax to the government. Okay, we need such things. We need this kind of architecture. This was a key demand of the Trump administration. Yes, I'll come to this. In the budget, finance minister also talked about, let's do away with all the taxes and tariffs, duties, customs duty on nuclear equipment, nuclear generation equipment, like absorber rods, some projects, certain kinds of equipment that we would need. Yeah, no taxes till 2035. Again, a major demand of the Trump administration. Okay. Now, this was another demand of the Trump administration. No duty on aircraft maintenance. If you are an MRO, that is maintenance, repair, and operations provider, you come to India, set up your business, you can actually service aircrafts and everything. And if you are, we are importing aircraft components, we wouldn't have to pay any taxes. So the thing is, if you are an aircraft component manufacturer or say importer, you wouldn't have to pay duty. These are all good things. All three were demands of the Donald Trump administration, as part of the Indo-US nuclear, Indo-US trade deal. You understand that? So while they could not have this is where politics comes in. This is where strategic understanding comes in. While if they had come out with these things openly, hey, don't say this in the interview like this, okay? Say that these are the measures. That's enough. So if they had, for your understanding, for our understanding, if the government had announced this before, the budget, or sometime as part of the Trump administration wanted, a month or 2 months back, then the opposition would have come out and said that the government has sold out the nation's interest. So that's how it is. Got it? Yeah. But these are all good things for us. You look at national interest. You don't look at politics here. This is a very good thing. Think about all the kind of technology that would come to India, all kinds of not just technology, but also the fact that these guys would employ Indians. They would employ Indians. They would, buy equipment from here, a lot of equipment. We would also, our own ecosystem would be built around this. This is how it works, my friends. Okay, think about maintenance, repair operations. A lot of aircraft components are made in India for Boeing, for Airbus, for a lot of other companies in the world. We could now, instead of exporting there, basically paying taxes and everything, we could actually sell them to these local producers in India, at lower cost. So we get more out of things. These are all very good measures, absolute good measures. That's why I mentioned standout measures. Okay. Yes, this is an interesting thing. Rare earth corridors. What is RRE? Rare earth elements. Now, what's a rare earth? A rare earth is a kind of an element. It's an element basically, which is which is abundantly available in nature. Yes, it will surprise you. It's called rare earth. Yeah, but they are freely available in nature, but not as direct ore, but as part of some ore. So there are essentially 15 rare earths. 13 lanthanides. In the periodic table, you'll find 13 lanthanides, plus there is something called scandium, and there is yttrium. So let me repeat: 13 lanthanides, yttrium, yttrium, plus scandium. So you would have to spend you would have to first mine, where is this? So for example, there is, I think, scandium or something is spread across, copper, different ores. So you can extract copper, but you know that there is copper mine here, you'll find copper. But these things are spread across ores, and to get them, you would need to spend billions of dollars just for the mining and refining capacity. So government of India has plans. We will establish dedicated rare earth corridors in the states of Odisha, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, and Kerala. Yes, I got it right. Yeah. For what? These states have them. There are monogites. Monogite is also famous for, it's as a nuclear fuel, nuclear fuel basically. It's used in nuclear reactors for in the fuel cycle. So monogite gives birth to thorium. Thorium is used in the nuclear fuel cycles. So remember this. We are the third largest rare earth, reserves country, third largest, but we are not getting much, my friends. So government of India is spending a lot of paisa on magnets, importing rare earth magnets and creating domestic capacity. But it would take a lot of paisa, my friends, lot of paisa, lot of technology. We are willing to spend. This is a very good move, absolutely good move. So we wouldn't have to depend on China, the United States, Australia, and all. Focus area. These are simple things. To boost farmers' incomes, the government of India has done a few things, my friends. And what are those things? What are the farmers' incomes? Raise productivity, diversify crops, and reduce risk. We mentioned this a while ago. So, what are the things? Bharat Vistar. I can, give a full points to the Modi government for coining all these kinds of weird things. Vistar, they say. Virtually integrated system to access agriculture resources. Man, this is something. What is this? It's a multilingual AI platform. So you seek advice. You get advice, basically. With the right kinds of prompts, you get the right kind of advice from this multilingual platform. Now, we mentioned this a while ago that the government of India is looking at pushing people to, for high value crops. Instead of growing rice, wheat, and ordinary stuff like millets and all, which won't give you enough money, in the market, because there's always oversupply of these things, and you're at the mercy of the broker and all that. Why don't you grow things that would get you more paisa? Yeah, and that is where expert advice comes in. This is where the local agricultural agencies would come into place. So they're asking people to shift to certain high value crops like coconut, sandalwood, cashews, cocoa. Yeah, they're also saying that why don't you grow certain kinds of nuts like almonds, walnuts, and pine nuts, and in the northeast, agar. There is something about this. We have, since agar is different from what I'm going to talk about, agarbatti. We have agarbatti now. Agarbatti requires a certain kind of wood. Now, agarbatti making industries are mostly found in Tamil Nadu and all this. But, we don't have the right kind of wood, agarbatti wood, bamboo it is actually, that could help us build this agarbattis. We have in Northeast India certain kind of bamboo which is not as strong as the one that is now being used in agarbatti industry. So the guys who make these agarbattis import that bamboo from Vietnam. Hey, from Vietnam. You know why? Getting it from Vietnam by a container, in a container by ship, is cheaper than getting the same bamboo from Northeast India by road. Yes, this is where we need to work. Yeah, logistics cost and all that stuff. So, world over, Ayurvedic demand for products, or the demand for these products is rising. So, I'll just come to the rising. So we say that why don't we get into this business? Why don't we sell not just to our people, but also to a lot of other guys, basically. Yeah, the world over, there are many takes for Ayurveda. In fact, it's one of the fastest growing medical disciplines in the world. So to meet these demands and to ensure that people get the right kinds of things, we are setting up 3 new all India institutes of Ayurveda. And of course, we are also upgrading Ayush pharmacies. Ayush pharmacies. And of course, we are also upgrading Ayush pharmacies. So, Ayush pharmacies. Of course, we are also upgrading Ayush. I heard myself. That's a weird thing, isn't it? Yeah. Speaking once is enough. So, Ayush is Ayurveda, Unani, Siddha, homeopathy, and naturopathy, isn't it? Yeah. So, one last thing. This is seriously good. What does it say? It says fisheries is one high value, vocation. That is, fishery farmers can make a lot of paisa, and in this case, we can actually set up more than 500 fish reservoirs around the country. And of course, whatever fish is this will be set up in coastal areas. Now let's say you go into, if I'm a fisherman, I go into the open ocean. There is something called where is it, man? Yeah, there is something called territorial waters. Okay, these extend to 12 nautical miles from the coast. Then there is something called exclusive economic zone, which extends to about 200 nautical miles. That comes to about 360 kilometers Yeah, from the coast till 360 kilometers is our India, India's exclusive economic zone. Consequently, we could go there, mine, we could fish, all that stuff. So whatever fish we catch there will be tax free. Now it's taxed. It is taxed. Now it will be tax free. It's a very good measure. Very good measure. It will, it will help a lot of fishermen, big and small. MSME has been a focus area, and everywhere people have been talking about MSME, MSME. So, just a second. Satvik is asking, how long will the session be? Maybe another half an hour. Yeah, Satvik. Patience is the virtue. That's all I would say. I didn't budget for so long, but once I start, there's so much to discuss. Yeah. Only a couple of important slides I'll focus on. Okay. MSME, micro, small, and medium enterprises. Micro, small, and medium enterprises. You could be asked this question in the interview. So, define a micro unit by turnover. So, they are defined by two things. One, the investment into them, and the second, turnover. So, the graphic that I made here, it says micro, small, medium, and in rupees crore. If you set up as a unit with a max of, these are maximum numbers, okay, maximum investment of 2.5 crores, your unit would be called micro MSME, micro enterprise. It would be called micro. So these are maximum numbers. 2.5 crore, max turnover 10 crore, 25 crore for your unit to be called small enterprise, and turnover should not exceed 100 crores. 125 crores turnover, from 25 up to 125. Okay, micro, small, and medium enterprises. I hope you got this. These are the maximum numbers. Now, to help our MSMEs do great, to make them champions, that's what the budget document says. Yeah, we need to spend we would need to spend a lot of money to help them get access to credit. Small and medium enterprises, 10,000 crore fund. Okay, and this is something that could come in the interview. Corporate Mitra. So 3 professional organizations have been asked to start courses to cater to a particular profession called Corporate Mitra. Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, Institute of Company Secretaries of India, and Institute of Cost and Works Accountants of India. I think it is written separately now. I don't know. Back in my time, basically, when I was in college, it was called ICWAI. Okay. So, Chartered Accountancy Apex Body, Company Secretaryship Apex Body, Cost and Works Accountancy Body. These, these guys have been asked to develop certain courses that would help, build a profile for corporate mitras. So once you train these corporate mitras, they'll help, this MSME, especially in tier 2 and tier 3 cities, to navigate the maze of legal issues. You know how regulatory mechanism in India is. Babu here, Babu there, there are so many bureaucrats all out to, delay things or for whatever reason, So the idea is this, that, to ensure that MSME's compliance, they comply with legal aspects, corporate mitras would come into play. This is an interesting thing, threats. Let's say I sell to a government, okay? I sell to government. I run a small business, small enterprise, and I sell to government. Or I sell to you. Let's call it you, okay? I sell to you. Now you issued basically, there's an invoice. Money has to come from you. But you say 2 months credit, 2 months credit. So what do I need? Immediate cash now. What do I do? I can go to this platform, TREDS platform. Okay, what is it? Trade Receivables Discounting System platform. It's a government platform, and I can actually upload all the documents and say whoever bids am willing to forego a little money, discount, give me that money. So if it's, let's say, the invoice value is 5 lakh rupees, 5 lakh rupees, you are willing to pay me, let's say, 4.9 lakh rupees. I'm saying I need money. I say, okay, 10,000 discount. So you'll pay me 4.9 lakh, and this you can take the invoice. You can take the invoice. So the money will directly come to you when my buyer pays. Got it? Yes. That's how it works. They are the good systems actually to ensure liquidity. Focus area. From the very beginning, the government of India has been asking private sector to invest in in building infrastructure for the economy, but no one's doing it. The private sector doesn't want to come in. Okay, they don't want to invest in airports. They don't want to invest in roads, building roads, ports, all kinds of things. Yeah. So for now, 12.2 lakh crore rupees has been given for capital expenditure to build assets. That's a lot of money, isn't it? 12.2 lakh crore. The last year it was 11 lakh crore rupees. It is now 12.2 crore. 12.2 lakh crore. In the budget, the finance minister spoke about growth connectors. And these growth connectors, my friends, are going to be 7. They're going to be high-speed rail networks, high-speed rail corridors. High speed would be, as of today, 250 km to 350 km ph. See, everything starts with an aspiration. If we work hard, we follow it through, things work. That's what the government is saying. Okay. So they're going to build 7 corridors, high-speed corridors, intensely. These are all business zones. Like, for example, Mumbai, Pune, Hyderabad. Mumbai, Pune, Hyderabad. Hyderabad, Chennai, Hyderabad, Bengaluru, Chennai, Bengaluru. Okay. Delhi, Varanasi, Siliguri. Everything is mentioned here. That's the idea. It's very important to have this. See, if we have a network like, between Hyderabad, what is is something missing? Or 2 to 4? Yeah, Hyderabad plus Hyderabad BLR. It is likely to take 2 hours. 2 hours. Imagine that. Yeah. Otherwise, it's a hassle, today. This is cool stuff. You could be asked this question. Recycling of real estate assets of central public sector enterprises through new dedicated REITs. What is REITs? Real estate, okay, investment trust. So what exactly is this? This is a kind of a mutual fund. You know what's a mutual fund? I'm sure most of you know what's a mutual fund. For the person who doesn't know, I'm here. Okay. I'm here for the person who doesn't know. That's about it. That's what a teacher is. So, guys, if I'm an individual investor, you're an individual investor. Okay. There are 3-4 guys here. We're all individual investors. We have limited investment capacity. We buy 2 shares of Reliance, 1 of HDFC, like that. If the shares of HDFC tank tomorrow, Reliance tank, we are gone, isn't it? But we would want to buy that share, X share, Y share, A share, B share. We don't have money. So what do we do is this. We go to a mutual fund. The mutual fund pools money from all of us, okay? Hundreds of thousands of people. It takes money from all. Then it says, okay, let's invest here in a range of companies. Not 1 company, 2 companies, hundreds of companies. It invests in all. So here the principle is, if there is a loss from any of these investments, the loss can be compensated with profits from the other investments. I mean, even if 1 company makes a loss, the loss can be compensated with profits from other. So 2-3 companies don't pay, dividends sometimes. Other companies may pay. The companies, mutual funds keep selling shares also. So they look for capital appreciation. We invested 100 rupees. Now it's 120 rupees. Sell, we get 120. This is how the value keeps rising. So what happens essentially here is that, the risk is spread across a range of companies in mutual funds. Okay. Similarly, in a rate, the same thing happens. REIT, same thing happens. How? Um, Government of India, rather, let's look at it in a general way. A rate, it takes, it pulls money. Okay, I want to buy a property, I cannot buy a property. It takes, let's say, 5 crore. Oh, I can't buy. So you also want to buy something, but it's say 2 crore rupees. Oh my God. So people like us, invest in a rate. It then takes all the money from investors, buys a lot of properties. Okay, lets out these properties, earns rent. This rent is divided among investors. Okay, what is the rule here? 90% rule. 90% of the total income of a rate has to be distributed among investors. Yes, that's the rule. 90%. So it buys a lot of properties, apartments, malls, hotels, all kinds of things. Okay, office parks and all that, large IT parks. It buys all of these things. And then it earns interest, it earns rent, it distributes the rent among investors. Now, what's the maximum it can invest? It can pay 90%, but 90% is also the minimum it has to pay. It cannot keep the money otherwise. Fair. And that's the reason why a lot of people invest in rates. Yes. Okay. But there is a risk here. The risk is, what if property prices crash? Your money is gone. Yeah, it's stuck. That's how it works. Property loss might change and all that stuff. So the government of India is looking at building waterways. We, as of today, have 11 waterways and 20 waterways that would connect mineral areas, mineral clusters, development clusters with industrial centers and ports. Okay. So, there is, for example, they are looking at 20 over the next 5 years. There is something called NW5, National Waterway 5. It's going to connect Talcher, which is a mining area, with an industrial cluster. Okay, I think it's called Kalighat something, and that from there it would connect to ports. Two ports. One is Paradeep and the other is Dhamra. So one waterway would connect this. The cost of transportation goes down because of this. Yeah. So yeah, now that there will be ships, if you have internal waterways and everything, we need to build a ship repair ecosystem. This will be built in two places. One is Varanasi, the other in Patna. So two, ship repair, ports, ship repair systems will be built. One in Varanasi, the other in Patna. Yes, there is one more thing here. Just touch and go. We are going to develop a new integrated East Coast industrial corridor. We already have this. This is from Dankuni in West Bengal and all that. Yeah. Let's see how it works. See, all kinds of policies are great. Aspirations are great. But, completing them, seeing that everything works out fine. So aspirations are good. Schemes are good. Outcomes matter. Outcomes matter. Okay. See, this and another slide will be the last slide. You see this graphic. This is from the budget document itself. This green is capex. Yeah, revenue expenditure. Yellow is capital expenditure. In 2017-18, capital expenditure was just total revenue, out of the total revenue, total expenditure 12.3%, only 12. Look at how over the years it has grown. Today it is almost 23% of the total expenditure. So revenue expenditure is going down, which is a good thing, which means we are spending less on salaries, pensions, that's revenue expenditure, on routine expenses and everything, salaries, pensions and all that. So we are spending less here on revenue expenditure, more on asset creation, capital expenditure. This is how a graph helps. Okay. This is, I think we'll end this. There are 2-3 slides after this, but we'll end this after this. Because let me see if there are any questions. What is home affairs includes? paramilitary forces, police forces, central, agencies like IB, RAW, and all that, they come here basically. Okay. In which branch of time are you teaching? What do I teach and all that? Does not matter, my friend. Yeah, I'm here. I'm your teacher. My name is Bharat. Um, as long as I'm here, listen to me. Okay. I work at the head office. I'm in a studio. We at Time have 4 studios like this, and we try to do as much as we can. We had planned to have this session on Sunday evening itself. Morning there was a budget. Sunday evening, this is usually when I would do it, the same evening or maximum next evening. But I was traveling away in Rajasthan, so we would make sure that these things happen. So to the extent possible, be a Time will take care of you. Okay. Um, is too much privatization bad? Not really. Depends on what are we privatizing and how we take care of the sector. Okay. Another thing is uh, that what do we do with the money that we get after privatizing? Okay. And more importantly, at what price are we privatizing? That's another. Now, what is a private company? Like, look at Air India. Air India for ages had been making losses. Okay. We sold it finally. Now what happened? Did we sell it with all the debt? No, we said, okay, Air India, Tata Group said, we will not take the debt, Baba. 30,000 crore, we will not take it. We will pay only 18,000 crore. You take this 18,000 crore, give us the airline. We gave it. We kept the debt. That's it. What about the 18,000 crore? Where is it money? That is how you should look at it. Okay. And what is the current condition of Air India? Could you just give us a quick summary of about the India-US trade deal? It's not final. Look, a couple of things here. Not just the India-US trade deal, but also the India-European Union trade deal. No one knows what is in the fine print. The final document has not come out. Please know this. The final document has not come out. So we don't know what is the fine print. But yes, um, these things take time to come out. They are all political in nature. We may say that these are all economic. No, these are all political in nature. Okay. So now maybe Trump has a FOMO. Oh my God, the Indians are signing a deal with the Europeans. I favor the Europeans over Russia, against Russia, and these guys are going there and signing a deal. So why should I be, left behind? So maybe he's coming forward. We are not given many concessions except that what we mentioned, but which are good for us essentially. But we don't know what the final details are. Please wait for the entire document to come. I'll be the last guy to tell you this is what it is. Okay. One thing I'll tell you, in between India and Europe, 99% of the stuff that we will sell to Europe will be tax free. No taxes on Indian goods. So our goods become cheaper there. We have access to bigger market. That's a good thing. Yeah. So, education and tourism. One girl's hostel in higher education, STEM. What do you know STEM? What is STEM? Sciences and all that stuff, basically. Yeah. Technology, engineering, and mathematics. So to encourage, the girl child get into these kind of domains and all, it's a good move. These are good moves. Things have changed drastically in India over the last few years. See, for example, capex, we just saw that now. In 2015, the capex was 2 lakh crore rupees. How much? 2 lakh crore rupees. How much is it? 12 lakh crore rupees. So the government is spending a lot of money. I may tell you that, look, the economy is not doing well, yet the government is spending money. Yeah, it's pulling out money from its pocket from thin air and spending money, but it's spending money and it's creating real infrastructure. Yeah. So these are all simple things. I will put everything here. Nothing extraordinary for me to speak about. Is there anything that I would need to spend? No. This Tejpur is in Assam. It's in Assam. It's a major military base, Air Force base. And India is aging. India will age, the median age in India is about 28. As of today, it's about 28, a little over 28. India is 28, 29. China is 40 years. Do you know that? China is about 39 years old. The median age in China is 39.4, but make it 39 basically, or 40. America is likely to be about 47. Yeah. The oldest society in the world as of today among the major countries is Japan, 50 years. Okay. We are all growing old, man. We need people to be taken care of. So 1.5 lakh multi-skilled caregivers, especially to geriatrics, people who are getting old. Okay. There's nothing to discuss. In fact, that's the way I decided. I do not like to have so much stuff on one slide, but one of those 1-2 slides like this. Okay, one last thing. A lot of people said that, oh my God, this is so bad. Securities transaction tax is such a bad move. It is a bad move, okay, for the person who is paying it. Are you paying it? No. Why worry? Okay, now look at this. These see futures, options, trade, all these things. These are all about future things like future prices. See, a futures contract is simple, very simple. You and I strike a deal, okay? Today's I want to buy, let's say, this commodity, whatever it is, this commodity. I will buy it in the future from you. You will sell to me in the future at some date, let's say on 10th March. 10th March. Fair? The problem here is we need to negotiate a price here. You say today's price is 10 rupees. You say 12 rupees. I say 11 rupees. Chalo, we strike a deal, 11 rupees. So I will buy it from you at 11 rupees on 10th March. You will sell to me at 11 rupees on 10th March. We will have to fulfill the deal irrespective of price on that day. That's a contract, futures contract. That's it, nothing else. Okay. So there's a lot of speculation on this. This is all, people say gambling. I wouldn't say this. Okay. This is all speculation. So the government of India says that a lot of people have lost paisa in this. That is true. A lot of people have lost paisa, and the markets reacted badly. Only because of this, the markets reacted badly. It sank, the Sensex sank, the NSE, Nifty sank and all. But it's okay. That was only one day. Today, it went up. I mean, these are all very, very, touchy subjects, basically. Very sensitive, vulnerable things. Do not read too much into this, okay? Very few people are now getting into options because it's most traders, small traders have made a loss. Average loss 59,000 rupees. You may say it's not a big money. Hey, it's a big money for someone whose annual salary is 1 lakh, whose annual earnings is 1 lakh rupees, 2 lakh rupees. So 59,000 represent a lot of money for someone who makes 2 lakh rupees per annum. You got it? So a lot of people in small towns and all that, they are engaging in this. To curb the tendency, they have raised the taxes. Okay. This is seriously good. Earlier, when a person was involved in an accident, the person died and all, the family members would be given a claim, would be given some compensation through some claim, a motor accident claim. Okay. There was an income tax. There was a tax on that. There used to be TDS and everything. Now the government says, if a natural person, there is natural person, no company, natural person, motor accident claim is given, okay, there will be no TDS, no income tax on it, and no TDS on this. Absolutely nothing, no tax. The money comes, 5 lakhs is the claim amount, 5 lakhs goes to the family. Earlier, there was tax on this. We are a weird country, isn't it? This is not really. This last measure, seriously last measure, we'll end it here. TCS, tax collected at source. Tax collected at source. Reduce tax collected at source for what? Pursuing education and medical purposes. So if you're going abroad and everything, so the government says you could take this much money abroad, but when you're sending the money abroad, you are expected to pay money tax here. Something like in the past 5%, TCS 5%. Now it is 2%. You may say, oh, government has become large-hearted. Not really. See, the exchange value has gone down, has gone up. Earlier you were paying 84 rupees, now you're paying 91 rupees. So there is an intense burden on families that have sent, middle-class families that have sent their kids abroad. So that's the thing. Okay. So I think we'll end it here. Yes, Chetana Pradeep, I had mentioned why the market took a hit. It was just a knee-jerk reaction to securities transaction tax. Very few people pay, basically, essentially, and it's always that way. Basically, if I have to pay money on the amount of basically volume and everything, then I would always crib and all that. I would express my displeasure. This is how the markets reacted, basically. Okay. Um, Please share the slides. This is some decision we will take later. Okay, this video is recorded and it will be, yeah, it's a recorded session. It will be there. Okay, so uh, is it possible that the talks with the EU could have played a role in the adherence to the Trump administration? No, we don't believe in that. We have had, see, for all these months we have said we, we didn't play ball with Trump, and that is what angered him most, basically. Okay, that we don't care, but we went to the EU. For the 18 years, this deal with the European Union has been hanging fire. Yet we have signed finally, because the European Union is rattled by what Trump is doing. Yeah, in Greenland, in Venezuela, and what about his overtures to Putin, and what is his threat to impose 10% tax on European Union countries opposing his plans for Greenland? Was I speaking fast? Yeah, and you know, so when they went to China, but then they also realized that they are over depending on China, and China cannot be trusted. They know that. So what's left there? Hey, India. They realized it late, but they did realize. That's why Prime Minister Modi got Antonio Costa, President of the European Commission, and Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Union, as chief guests at the Republic Day function. It's all politics. It's all paisa. It's all national interest. Okay, that's all from me. Oh, why did gold and silver crash? Not really now, Parikshit. This is one of my favorite subjects. Okay, but maybe sometime later I will discuss in one of. Yeah, we keep uploading videos on every week on current affairs on this channel. Every week I upload. We upload this. I come here and speak basically every week on current affairs. About 40-45 minutes is what I do. Maybe this time I will speak about why we always have preferred gold, and why did the gold market crash or whatever basically. Okay, my friends, I hope you learned a few good things. You could always leave on the comment after the video is over. In the comments, basically, leave that. Thank you for being here. That's all from me, Bharat C. Jain. Have a lot of fun. Stay curious, my friends. God bless you all. Do well in life. Thank you.